All right, hello everybody. My name is Andra Zook. You probably know me as Andra Adams, but it's only some confusion about my last name with the school, so my real name is Andra Zook. But today I'm going to talk about zinc. This is a topic that I chose, and I actually learned a lot today, so I hope that I can teach you what I learned today. And I'm going to start with some information that I found, and I put some links on the top so that you guys can go look at them after. But first, I wanted to remind you that zinc is an essential nutrient, just like calcium and all the other ones in the picture that we see. And I wanted to also remind you that it is a trace mineral. It is very essential, an essential nutrient, but it is less than 100 milligrams per day, like we have read in the book, and part of almost every cell in the body has it. So that's one thing that I learned that was very important, because I didn't really know that zinc was very essential to the body, and that anything without it or too much of it could be so crucial. It's also used for different things, which I will talk about in the function section, but it does help many enzymes, and some of my sources claim more than 75 enzymes use zinc to be activated, or during the process of activating other enzymes as they go along through the body. And it also helps with immune system strength and skin health, and those two are very obvious, as we see later on in the, as we hear later on in the deficiency and toxicity sections. The RDA values for zinc for adults are actually 8 milligrams per day for women, and it definitely varies if they are pregnant. So 14 to 18 years old is 11 milligrams per day, 19 through 30 years old is 12 milligrams per day, and 31 to 50 years old is 12 milligrams per day. And also for men is only 14 milligrams per day. For them, and the upper level values for adults, I just only put the women and men for adults without being pregnant, just because I think those are the most essential, but I will tell you what the other upper level values are. So the women and men are both 19 plus years will be 40 milligrams a day will be the upper level value, but for pregnant and lactating women, it varies, because for lactation, the age from 14 to 18 years old is 9 milligrams per day. 11 milligrams per day, excuse me. And 19 through 30 is actually 12 milligrams per day, and it's the same for the 31 through 50-year-olds. It will also be 12 milligrams per day. And for pregnant women without lactation, it is actually for 14 through 18 years old is 10 milligrams per day, and from 19 through 30 years old is 11 milligrams per day, and from 31 through 50 years old is 11 milligrams per day. And that will be from my 5th source in the reference page as well. And next will be the function section. So on this one, it's very, very interesting. So many things are done with zinc, even though there's very little of it in the body. So like I said before, the many enzymes require zinc to be activated, and the book actually mentions 300, that as at least 300. And then DNA and RNA synthesis are one of the most important parts of zinc function, because like I said before, there's almost in every cell there is zinc. So there is a lot of talk going around about it, but for sure DNA and RNA synthesis are a big part of the zinc functions. Immune system functions. So there are many people, I put controversy on there, because many people think that, or like studies that I've read state that they don't work for immune system, and others say they do. And some of them I will explain later will help with just like how long it takes to get better and to just your body to get back to normal. And the next one is growth and development. This was a very important one because growth is mostly with youth, and also development includes like sexual development as well as in like also reproduction, which is also later in this same slide. Also bone structuring and forming, so this is very crucial when with youth. And there is a little system that they talk about in the book also that is for antioxidant defense, and it gives a lot of more explanation there. One very good source explained that it helps control pH of the stomach, blood, and the urine. So that's very important because obviously pH balances everything like that can do with bacteria or things like that. Also, acne, allergies, and common cold recovery time, like I said. And definitely skin. Like a lot of people say that skin, like psoriasis and eczema and a lot of things like that, can be prevented or you can get better from it with zinc supplements or just normal intake of zinc in the diet. Prevents diarrhea. This is a very controversial one as well because one of the symptoms for toxicity is going to be diarrhea, and I will explain that a little bit later. But also reproduction, like I said, and heme synthesis is very important as well, and cell division and cell growth. And I think that's why it's included in a lot of the cells in the body. Next is the food sources. I put this picture in there and it's very similar to the next one, but I really like this one because it includes oysters are one of the most zinc, it has the most zinc in them, one of the foods that has the most of it in there, and so I really like oysters. So another thing is liver, so you can see in the back the liver as well, and a lot of seafood. So right here I put mostly everything that I just stated, but one thing that I do want to mention is that they're better absorbed by animal sources rather than plant sources. I didn't really know that, but they do have the spinach in that one picture I put right there. You can have it in poultry, legumes, and yeast, and whole grains, seafood, like I mentioned, that and protein-rich meat. Some examples of this is oysters and pork chops, beef, crab and lobster, and chicken and cashews and almonds, and obviously the liver. I can't even look at it. But the next thing that I wanted to mention was the symptoms of zinc deficiency, and it is possible to have a zinc deficiency. I just put one of the pictures there. The nails are very weird looking, but this can be caused by zinc deficiency and also with hair, loss of hair, or alopecia, and that's when you lose like your hair in chunks sometimes. Hypogonadism and skin problems, like I said, psoriasis, eczema, or even just dryness. Slow or limited growth, like I said, in children is most likely to hit puberty and still be undergrown. Also long healing time for wounds or cuts because apparently zinc is very important in the healing process for wounds. And I also wanted to speak about zinc toxicity. I wanted to make sure that you guys could see the upper level of intake because we have the infants there, the children and adolescents, and adults, pregnancy, lactation, like I said before. But I do want to mention that the symptoms are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Like I said, it's also a symptom for toxicity, but it's also prevented by zinc somehow. Metallic taste, obviously, because zinc is a metal, and stomach damage, because it also controls the pH, like I mentioned before, and possible kidney damage. What I did read is that some say that it is seen after 225 milligrams of zinc. I feel like that's very much, but of course I'm not like this scientist who knows, but I did include the source right there so that you could read it. iron intake affected by too much zinc. I put that in there with an asterisk because zinc does affect the absorption of iron. So just to keep in mind that as well. Also, I would like to kind of smush in the what I learned most and what I thought was most interesting, because I actually read a very interesting study, and the link is number 3, like you can see up there. I put some things that I really wanted to talk about, because the first thing that I learned from that study was that memory learning is a big thing, but the study was actually about depression, and how zinc, iron, and depression are related. They thought that if you took too little zinc and too little iron, you would have depression, but at the end of the study they say that it is actually inverted. So like it's the opposite. So it does say that if you take too much zinc and iron, it could possibly cause depression. Some of the bad things about this study was that they didn't have a very big amount of people to actually prove it on, but they did. The people that they did have, they did watch them very closely. They mentioned was one of their strengths of their study. They also mentioned age-related chronic diseases. Another thing that I read on a different study was about fertility and osteoporosis. Fertility apparently can be very affected by zinc deficiency or toxicity in men. So I did read that men infertility could be caused by a zinc deficiency, and osteoporosis can very much define, zinc can very much define osteoporosis as well. And yeah, so this is my presentation. I did learn a lot, and I hope that you guys learned as much too with my little presentation. These are my references right here, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.